Hi, everyone. Most of you are watching this video because you are on my email list and you received an email from me talking about a book that I recently read that was triggering for me in the field that I focus on and that I specialize in. If you didn't get here from my email list, I'll just quickly introduce myself. My name is Eliza Kingsford. I am a licensed holistic psychotherapist. I've been doing this work in the field of body image, food, and weight struggles for almost 20 years. I have been mentored by some of the leading minds in research in the field of obesity and weight management and also eating disorders. I've gotten to work alongside some of the biggest names in this field. I have been mentored by them. I have learned from them. I have trained hundreds of clinicians in this field. I've written a book myself, and I tell you all of that because I want you to know that this discussion that I'm about to have is certainly my opinion on the subject, and I want that to become very clear. I'll talk about that in a second, but also I do have an extensive base of knowledge and extensive history in work in this area. I have pored over the research myself. I have been mentored by some of the researchers who do the research in this field. And so all of my quote opinions are definitely, they do have a basis. They have a solid basis, both in experience and in research and credentialing. That is not a plea for you to agree with my opinion that I'm about to give you on this book. I want to share this opinion and I want to share my opinions with you just to give another perspective on the issue, but my intention is not to sway you or make you feel like you have to follow my opinion. That is not my intention at all. So let me back up and say, like I said, most of you got here because you are a part of my email list and you want to know more about the book that I was reading that triggered me and led me to send an email out saying, I'm reading a book that's super triggering for me right now. So the book I read was Anti-Diet by Christy Harrison. And the reason why I went through all of my credentialing is because one of the points she makes in her book is about how well credentialed she is, how well read she is, all of the research she's done, and how that led her to writing the book and her belief system. And so I want you to know that the opinions that I'm about to share with you also have a research and experience and credentialed background. That does not make my opinions right. It does not make hers wrong. It just makes them a different view, a different way of looking at things. And that's really important to me as I go into this conversation, is that I want you to know that the reason why I'm doing this video, the reason why I'm putting this information out there is because I just want you to have a different perspective or a different idea from which to think about the important aspects of the conversation that she laid out in her book. I do not have any ill will towards Christy Harrison. I do not think negatively of her. I do not have anything bad to say about her. I just have a different opinion. I just have a different idea of the issues that she presents. I have a different way of looking at things, and I'm just offering my perspective in this video. It is not meant to put her down in any way. Like I said, I do not hold any ill will towards her. I'm not trying to cancel her or bash her in any way. In fact, I believe, and you'll hear me say in this video, I believe that it's really important that we're able to come to the table about some of these really important issues in the anti-diet movement and the anti-diet book that she lays out with a difference of opinion. I think that part is incredibly important so that we can look at it from all sides and think about it critically and be able to run it through our own filters of what feels right and true for us. So what I am doing is offering you a different way to look at things today. And I encourage and invite you to take in this information, see what feels good for you, throw out what doesn't, and perhaps you'll learn something from the rest. So the first thing I did after I read Anti-Diet was to filter it through my own triggers and understand what I was being triggered by, why it was bringing up such strong emotion for me, and why I felt the need to talk about it. That was important for me before I even started having these conversations with people, because I wanted to make sure that my own experience, my own triggers, my own opinions weren't clouding my professional acumen, my ability to be able to think through things critically and effectively and understand how to put it together for you, my community. So I filtered it through my own triggers first. And if you've worked with me in any capacity, or you've been in any of my groups or any of my one-on-one counseling, you'll understand this process of understanding my own triggers and filtering it through my own system first. What part of this is mine? What do I own? What is being triggered in me? I did all of that work. And on the other side of that work, I condensed my thoughts about the book into a few main points that I will share here with you. Again, please, as you're listening to this, I hope that it comes out in the spirit of love and connection that I mean it. And I hope that you'll take it in the spirit of just looking at a different side of things, understanding a different opinion, and filtering that through your own to see what fits for you. So first, I would love to start with what I did agree with in the book. I absolutely understand, agree with, and emphasize the impact of diet culture on our collective humanity as a whole. Diet culture is real. Diet culture is harmful. Fat stigma, fat shame, fear of fat is a big problem in our culture. And I agree with her that we need to do a better job as a collective whole of addressing that in a different way. So as I go throughout this sort of critique or my opinion, it is not that I am discounting diet culture as a whole. And in no way, shape, or form am I discounting fat stigma or fat shame, or I should say, in no way, shape, or form am I promoting fat stigma or fat shame. I do agree with those as being major problems in the collective humanity as a whole. So I agree with that, and I appreciated her making those points. I also agree that diet culture, the culture of dieting and the connotation of dieting and the impact of dieting can be incredibly negative for people. And I emphasize culture itself. The diet culture can be incredibly negative for people. So the connotation around dieting, the relationship around dieting, the negative vibration around dieting can be incredibly impactful and negative for people. I agree with that as well. Some of the places where I differed, where my opinions differ, are as follows. In the book, there are some points made, and I'm going to emphasize those points to you just as I heard them, and tell you why they don't fit for me. They don't land as a whole truth for me. So the first point is that there is no way to intentionally focus on weight loss. So no method of intentional weight loss or weight management or weight maintenance. So essentially no way to intentionally focus on managing your weight in a healthy way and have that be successful long-term. That was her first point, or one of her points, is that there is no way from a research and science standpoint. There is no proven way to intentionally manage your weight, both weight loss or weight management, long-term, and have that be effective. I disagree with that point. And what I will give her, what I agree with, is that the research participants and the study participants on various diets, right, have led to an outcome that most various diets, if not all various diets, fail for most of the people most of the time. But when we extrapolate that and generalize that into, that means there is no method of intentional weight loss and weight management, just because the research that we have on specific diets fail, that means there is no way for intentional weight loss and weight management. I think that is categorically false. And here's the reason why. There are millions of people managing their weight intentionally every day, on purpose. They're just not affected by it. They don't feel like they're following a diet. They don't feel bothered by what they're doing. It doesn't impact their lives in a negative way. They are not part of diet research. The millions of people that intentionally manage their weight on a daily basis through their food intake or exercise are not signing up for research on a diet because they don't feel like they're dieting. And also, they may not even actively identify until you talk to them about it as someone who is intentionally managing their weight. They're just making decisions about food and their body and movement on a daily basis that feel good to them. And that includes feeling comfortable in their body, comfortable in their skin. And oftentimes that includes, staying within a certain weight, shape, or size parameter that helps them feel comfortable. They're just not doing it with the same, what am I trying to say? They're not bothered by it. They're not frustrated by it. They're not signing up for diet research because they don't feel like they're dieting. And so to say that there is no method for intentional weight loss or weight management, just because we do not have research that shows that a diet works for most of the people most of the time, I think is throwing the baby out with the bathwater. It's too much of a generalization. My argument to that is there are millions of people effectively, intentionally managing their weight every single day by making food decisions that feel more aligned with a healthy weight for them all day, every day. They're just not bothered by it. They don't view it as a diet. They don't view it as disruptive. They're not involved in diet research because it wouldn't occur to them to do that. That's point number one. So I disagree that there is no way to intentionally manage your weight and do that effectively. I can go into that more if you want to reach out about that. Number two, there is a point being made that says anybody who has a desire to lose weight or change their shape or manage their weight or size is a victim of diet culture, and that diet culture should be blamed for that type of oppression, that none of us would want to manage our weight, shape, or size unless we were a victim of diet culture. I disagree with that as well. There are many, many reasons why people have a desire to manage their weight, shape, and size. And she spends a lot of time talking about the history of dieting and the history of bodies. And again, remember, I agree with diet culture. Diet culture is prevalent, but the point that I will end up making throughout this video and in other places is that our relationship with diet culture is up to us. We do not have to be victims of diet culture. We do not have to fall into this idea that we are oppressed by diet culture and we just don't know it. And, we're under this huge weight of oppression and we're victims of diet culture. That's up to us. We have the ability to change our relationship with how we view diet culture messages and, messages of what we're supposed to look like in our culture. We have the ability to change how we relate to that. And so back to my original point, I have seen thousands of clients in my own practice, but also in studies out there, people have a desire to change their weight and shape for a lot of reasons. And to automatically lump everybody into, oh, you are a victim of diet culture or you are a victim of oppression, in my view, leads people to more oppression. The key there, the nuance there, is helping someone untangle their relationship with their body from diet culture, not blame their relationship with their body on diet culture. That's the difference. In my view, the way, again, opinion, this is not fact, this is my opinion, and the way that I do my work is that, well, my job is to untangle the way that my job is to untangle the way that diet culture has negatively impacted someone's relationship with their body. Untangle that. Untangle the messages that diet culture has created about their weight, shape, and size. And after we do that untangling and we create a different relationship to their body, some people absolutely still have a desire to change their shape and size. It's okay. And it's not my job to convince them that if you have a desire to lose weight, that automatically means you're a victim of diet culture. And therefore, the work that we need to do is to just get you to rage against the machine, right? Forget diet culture. Diet culture did this to me. And so I'm going to stick my middle finger to diet culture. And for me, what I have seen is that doesn't help people. It leaves them still angry at something outside of them. So once we untangle where diet culture has come in and has created messages of a lack of worthiness, or where diet culture has impacted someone in a negative way, once we untangle that, it still may be there, that they feel like they're not living in a body shape or size that feels aligned for them. And then we start working on, okay, how do we get back to alignment? And for some people, that might mean changing their shape and size. That's none of my business. In fact, the shape and size of somebody shouldn't be anybody's business, whether you want to be smaller or not, whether you want to be bigger or not. If we're talking about stop having these conversations about people's shape and size as a method or a way to judge worthiness, then we need to take out the conversation altogether and not just praise people who want to stay the same shape and size. We praise all people for whatever they want. Do you want to lose weight? Do you want to gain weight? Do you want to maintain weight? Do you want to forget about weight altogether? The idea is that we are allowing people to go back to themselves and find their own alignment for what feels right for them. And I feel like there is an air of what I call reverse diet shaming. When we put people into a category, if somebody says, I want to lose weight, that there is reverse diet shaming going on by saying, it's not okay to want to lose weight. You need to just love yourself at your current shape and size. You need to accept yourself at your current shape and size. And if you have a desire to reduce your shape and size or change it in any way, you must be a victim of diet culture. That makes people feel ashamed. It makes them feel ashamed that they don't feel comfortable in their body. She even goes on to argue about how if you don't feel comfortable in your body, that message came from diet culture and you're a victim of that. I felt like the whole book, she was trying to convince me that I am a victim of diet culture. And I'll be the first to raise my hand and say, I'm very comfortable and happy in my body. And I have gone through many periods of time in my life where I wasn't. I am now. And I don't need someone to convince me that my daily intentional focus on managing my weight and my body and doing that in a way that feels comfortable and empowering for me. I'm not a victim of diet culture. I live my life in my body in a very aligned and happy way on a daily basis. And that includes actively managing my weight in a way that feels good to me. I'm okay. I feel good about that. That's what I teach all my clients to do, is to be able to live their lives in a way where they feel aligned and empowered. And what we talk about is finding your happiest and healthiest weight, the weight that feels good to you, the weight that feels most empowering to you, that you can manage and maintain without feeling like you're deprived or restricted or in chains or in jail with your food. Story for a different day. Okay, the third point that I want to bring up is that first, she made the point that if you want to lose weight, you're a victim of diet culture, and that there is no effective long-term way of managing your weight, right? No intentional weight loss is going to be effective long-term. So then she presents a solution, which is intuitive eating. Intuitive eating is the solution because there is no way to effectively lose weight and keep it off, or manage your weight and keep it off. And if you want to do that, then you're a victim of diet culture. Then here's your solution. Your solution is to do intuitive eating. Now, here's my issue with that. If intuitive eating works for you, fantastic. If it feels good, if it feels aligned, if it makes you your happiest and healthiest version of yourself, great, do it all day long. But I have never been a fan when somebody says, here's the jail that you're stuck in. Here's why you're stuck in that jail. And I have the key to get you out. And any other option that you want to try to get you out is not the real one. This is the real one. I've always had a problem with that. I will always question that. My method and the way that I have always been with my clients is we'll find the way that works for you. And the way that works for you may not work for you or you or you or you or you. But the idea is finding the way that works for you. And that's individual and unique to you. So anytime someone makes a blanket statement that says, this is the way, right? Intuitive eating is the way, keto is the way, Whole30 is the way, low carb is the way, high carb is the way, low fat is the way. None of that sits well for me. In my opinion, the way that we should be addressing people's relationship with food and their bodies is to find what is uniquely good for them. And like I said, if intuitive eating works for you, fantastic, keep doing it, right? But if I had $1 for every time somebody came to me and said, yeah, I tried intuitive eating, it was terrible. I feel worse than I did when I started doing it. Her argument would be that you were doing it wrong. This is a problem for me, is that we need to be able to meet people where they're at. sort of therapy 101. You meet somebody where they're at. And if where they're at is intuitive eating did not work for me, my job is not to convince them that intuitive eating is the only way out of their pain. My job is to help them untangle where their pain came from to begin with. And once we clear that clutter out of the way, now they can go back to what feels truly aligned for them, individually and uniquely for you. I've taught hundreds, if not thousands of people how to do this. It's possible. And here's what I can tell you is also possible. There is absolutely ways to manage your weight, keep it off effectively, efficiently, and peacefully that include intuitive eating and do not include intuitive eating. So I did not appreciate the way intuitive eating was represented as the only way out of this mess. There was not another way presented. And in fact, which led me to my fourth point of contention, difference of opinion. Not only was intuitive eating presented as the only way out of the mess, but every other way was purported to be diet culture wrapped up in the name of the wellness industry. In other words, she said, anybody who talks about food or food for health or food for lifestyle or lifestyle change, anybody who talked about that is really just diet culture wrapped up in another name. And again, I feel like that's throwing the baby out with the bathwater, right? You cannot make a generalized statement about all practitioners who are trying to help people change their relationship with food in their body. In my opinion, I don't have the need to go out and preach to everybody that my way is the only way. What I tell the people who in my community is, this is a way. If this works for you, come on in. Let's talk about it. Let's teach. Let's get you on a path to your happiest and healthiest weight. Here is a way you could do that. If you have found another way that works for you, if you find a better way and this one doesn't, I'm all about it. I will be your biggest cheerleader in the back telling you, good for you. If you feel comfortable and confident in what you're doing and who you're bringing to the table, you don't need everybody to agree with you. You stand in your truth and you say, hey, I have this thing to present to you. And if you want it, come on in. And if you don't, that's okay too. I can wish you well as you find a different journey. And so what I'm saying is, I balked personally at the overemphasis of not only intuitive eating being the only way, but also that any way that was not intuitive eating was automatically a part of the wellness industry or diet industry. I had a real hard time with that, in that I disagree that if anybody is talking about weight or body image in a way other than intuitive eating, they're automatically a part of diet culture. That feels a little too convenient for me. That says, if you're not doing it my way, then you're doing it wrong. That feels a little too convenient. I also didn't love how a lot of the research felt cherry-picked to me. And what I mean by that is, whenever you're looking critically at research, we run the risk of this confirmation of bias, right? We run the risk of, oh, if this is research that supports my ideas, then there's nothing wrong with it. It's beautiful research. But if it's research that doesn't support my ideas, then here's how I'm going to pick it apart, right? And here's all the things that I can tell you is wrong with this research, right? And I felt like there was a lot of cherry picking going on. There was a number of ideas that didn't fit all the way through with me when we were trying to lean on research to prove a point. There was a number of places where that fell flat for me. But the overall takeaway for me about reading this book was, if intuitive eating works for you, and that is the method that makes you feel like your highest and best version of yourself, good on you. I support you. Happy that you found something that works for you. That's fantastic. If it doesn't work for you, if it hasn't worked for you, Books like this, in my opinion, this anti-diet, even like the word anti, I'm so anti. If it doesn't work for you, it often leaves you feeling worse off than you did before. Because when we present it as the gold standard, as the only option for fixing how we're feeling, and then it doesn't work, it leaves you feeling more shame, more frustration, more loss than you were before. Because this thing that I was told is the only way out makes me feel even worse. Now, what am I supposed to do? I'll just tell you anecdotally, I've been seeing a trend on social media of some relatively large name influencers who have moved over into the anti-diet movement and who are miserable, who are actively talking about how they are miserably making their way through this shift into being anti-diet. And what I'm saying is, gang, the whole reason why someone is supposed to be, quote, anti-diet is to make them feel better, right? We're supposed to leave the destruction of diet culture behind us and go to something that makes us feel better. So if you're not feeling better in this culture or this environment, there might be something going on with the movement, in my opinion. So without me throwing the baby out with the bathwater, what I want to say is, I agree that there are destructive patterns in diet culture. I agree that fat shame and fat stigma and a lot of the destruction that comes with diet culture should be dismantled, and that we need to do a better job of that. I agree with those things. I disagree with presenting all solutions that are not intuitive eating as another form of diet culture. I disagree with trying to convince people that we are automatically a victim of diet culture or oppression if we have a desire to change our shape and size. And I disagree that there is no scientific way, or no proven way, I should say, that there is no proven way to have long-term results from intentional weight loss. I disagree with those points. And for that reason, I wanted to put it out to you all and see what you think. So I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear your thoughts on the issue, and let me know how you're feeling after you're having watched this video and hearing what I had to say. If you're here to the end, thanks for sticking with me. And I would also love to know what you'd like to hear more about from my perspective.